What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Ringside Brew Wrestling Podcast. This one is episode 16, I believe. Now, some of you are eagle-eyed viewers. You'll notice that I am actually alone today. Joseph is not around because I am recording this on a Friday night. I'm probably in Japan right now as you're listening to this, so you say when you go on vacation, you probably shouldn't do any work while you're away. So, I'm gonna pre-record this episode. I'm recording this on the 6th of February, and this is probably coming out on the 15th of February, just a day after Valentine's Day. Apologies for the slight glare on my glasses because I don't have great lighting. Hope that will change at some point. But this episode today is gonna be a special one because normally, right, I'll be here to review Raw and SmackDown together with Joseph. But I won't be able to watch wrestling while I'm away. So we're doing a very special episode where we asked questions, or rather, we got our community to ask questions. Oh man, my English is not right. I haven't even had my drinks yet. Let me correct that. We got our community to ask questions. I had a long day, guys. So a couple of interesting questions. I picked up a few good ones, and I'm gonna be answering them to the best of my abilities. It's just about wrestling, such and such. So very special episode we have today. Now, as we always do, even without Joseph, Ringside Brew Wrestling Podcast, we have a tradition here, and that is to crack open a drink while we talk about wrestling. Alright, so it's a Friday night. I'm gonna have a little bit of easy alcohol. So what I got here, I actually... look at this. So my wife got me this from Don Donkey. A lot of my dreams come from Don Donkey nowadays. Ichigo cream soda, sour. Also, that probably means there is a little bit of alcohol in it. Alcohol 3%. Nice. All right. I'm gonna crack it open. Cream soda as alcohol is a very interesting combination. Never had that before. Oh my god. I hope it doesn't explode on me. There we go. Alright, there's another one for the audience to take a look. Let me just rotate it around. Right, this is the one I'm having today. Whoa, that was good. This is really, really good. I highly recommend this. It tastes exactly like ice cream soda. If you like that, 100% please go and try it. I don't think it's that expensive because alcohol from Donkey don't always cost a lot. So with that out of the way, let's talk about some questions that our lovely community has asked us. Speaking of community, now before we begin, I just want to share that we do have a Discord channel. We welcome everyone. We talk about wrestling all the time. So if you want to be part of the community, you can join us via the Discord link in our Instagram bio. Just search us up at ringsidebrewpod.sg. It's all in the username and whatnot. As always, please help to like, share, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Just do us a 10-second favor. Just do us a solid. Help us out. It really, really brings us a long way. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to get into the questions right now. So, I got a couple of notes here, so I'm going to be looking back and forth. Okay, we got the first one. It says, what's the best and worst storylines and angles in WWE right now? Let's talk about the worst first, because I think I've been complaining about this for quite some time now with Joseph. If you've been listening to our podcast, I typically complain about the Wyatt 6 and MFTs. I think it's been quite a while, quite a while since they first interacted with each other. I think this was like Backlash, quite some time back already, last year even. So Backlash was after Mania, which means this could have easily been like 7-8 months. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that they have been going at it for so long. if they didn't start at Backlash, I don't think it was Backlash. I think MFTs they rebranded themselves in Backlash. So maybe June, July they started this. But still a pretty long time, right? To do this for half a year. So they've been beefing for more than half a year now. They traded titles once already. MFTs are now the champions, and now they're beefing over the lantern. So like, Joseph and I, we keep joking that, why are they so hung up on the lantern? They could simply just go on Taobao and just order a lantern. But in all seriousness, right, I think this storyline has really, really gone too far. I think it's a classic case of WWE or the creative not knowing what to do with these guys. And I mentioned this before, Wyatt 6, they're quite tricky to book. Simply because they have this supernatural gimmick. You can't have them lose all the time. They cannot appear all the time, because if they do any of those, they lose the mystique, right? Because that's the kind of gimmick that they have. But it's a little bit of an oxymoron situation, because if you don't show up, people will forget about you. But if you show up too many times, your gimmick kind of gets stale, especially this kind of mystical stuff. So I mean, they somehow made it work with Bray Wyatt back then, but Bray Wyatt was more of a psychopath, sociopath kind of character. These guys, they don't talk a lot, so I think that's the main problem for them, is they don't show up and talk a lot. And it's very hard for us fans to kind of like connect with them on a deeper level. I may be wrong. This is just what I feel. And again, all of these questions I answer. It's 100% my own opinion. Please be gentle. So I would think that, this rivalry is going a little bit too far. I just hope that they wrap this up soon, so, the MFTs can go and do their own thing. The trouble with MFT is also, right, Solo Sikoa has been branded as quite a joke character for a very, very long time. Either that or he's doing funny things. So it's a little bit hard to buy, him as a leader. So it doesn't really look like two superpower teams going into each other or as in fighting each other for the titles, So it's a very confusing situation, such and such. Right. So that's my pick. By the way, this is the first time that we are doing such a Q&A podcast. So, if you like it, do let us know. If you don't like it, do let us know as well. We can see do our best to improve it. All right, guys. All right, then we talk about nice storylines going on right now. I think you got a little bit of recency bias. For me, let's talk about Adam Pearce and Braun Breaker right now. So I just caught Raw. The first February, I think it was 1st February edition of Raw. Braun Breaker and Adam Pearce, they really took it to the next level. It is so intense between these two guys. Braun especially, his right hit energy, I tell you, it's very entertaining to watch, because he doesn't only present himself like that, but his in-ring work also reflects on this broad-headed energy. And I really like that. I think Braun Breaker is an amazing character. So I think right now it's highly personal for two of them, because Braun feels that Pearce is constantly trying to, screw him over, which I think he is. I think Pearce is, trying to screw Braun over. Which is interesting, right? But I think the most important thing for a storyline or angle to keep us engaged is for them to leave us hanging with a lot of questions, and it makes us want to tune back next week and a week after, so on and so forth. Out of this rivalry I'm seeing, there's so many questions that we want to ask. Who is the masked man? Who is the masked man working for? And on the other side of the coin, is the Vision even going to turn on Braun Breaker, because on Raw he was so hard to control, right? So many questions, which keeps me excited for this storyline. I think both men done a really good job of selling this storyline. I think this is one of the more interesting ones for me. Then of course we got Roman Reigns and CM Punk. My God, I'm just gonna be frank with everyone. when we speak about Roman winning the Royal Rumble, right, I thought, like, for the longest time, before he even won the Rumble, I knew he was going to win, but I didn't think he would choose CM Punk out of all people. Like, I felt that there was a better story between Roman and Cody based on, the past couple of years. Like, I thought Cody was going to beat Drew McIntyre at some point to bring back the title, and it's going to be Roman and Cody. But no, I think WWE just decided to go for something that's a little bit more sideways. Is going for Roman Reigns and Punk? I don't think it's anything wrong with that. Roman and Punk, they go way back, right? They have years and years of animosity and whatnot, even when Punk is not around. So I think this story is so deep. Why? It's because when Punk did the pipe bomb, he brought in the Shield, yada yada yada. Anyway, for those of you who don't remember, Punk was the guy who brought in the Shield. Lo and behold, part of that Shield is Roman Reigns, right? Obviously, Punk left for many years, and then Roman had to kind of like become the next big guy, but everyone was turning on him. He had to go through quite a little bit to get to where he is today. So you could see why Roman would hate CM Punk. Again, like, a good storyline makes you want to come back and watch the next week. I think Roman and Punk, they have so much history of each other, but at the same time, both these guys, they're so good on the mic, right? Punk can cut a great promo. Roman, he can, if he could be himself, he could cut a amazing promo. You see the one on Raw, that was bananas. I loved it. So I would like to see them engage a little bit more, but I am kind of afraid that Roman is on that part-time schedule. He disappears for a couple of weeks and comes back again, leaving CM Punk, the full-timer, to kind of like fend for himself to build this storyline. Yeah, sure. I mean, the initial build is great, right? The promo and all. But, with Finn Balor kind of like lurking in the background, you can kind of see that, CM Punk is going to go for Finn Balor first. And then Roman Reigns is kind of going to fade into the background for a little bit. That's what I don't like about it. I hope that doesn't happen. But if, let's say, Roman can commit until Mania, I think fire. This is going to be a fire storyline for me. Yeah, Raw is on fire lately, I would say. Okay. Let's talk about the next question. WWE on Netflix after a year. Has it been a good thing for pro wrestling in the region? Let me have a drink first. This is damn good. I'm gonna admit that I kind of like the fruity stuff, especially when it comes to alcohol. So I do like alcohol on its own, but I kind of prefer the fruity stuff, so it's a little bit lighter. It's not that heavy. You do you. Alright, again, let me repeat the question again. WWE on Netflix after a year. Has it been a good thing for pro wrestling in the region? I mean, this question is a little bit vague. Region as in, like, is that, are you asking me about the Southeast Asia region? By the way, all these questions are anonymous. Yeah, guys, I don't know who asked this. I did feel that it was a good question to answer. I'm just gonna take it at face value and say that this person is asking about the Southeast Asian region. WWE on Netflix, I would say it really depends on who's looking at it. There's a couple of ways to look at this, right? I would say that it is generally good for WWE to be on Netflix. Why? Because Netflix is a massive worldwide platform, right? I would like to think that it is maybe second behind YouTube, or maybe just one or two levels behind YouTube in terms of the number of people using it. Anyway, this was way more from what they had last time, which was what the WWE Network or the Peacock one, right? So with that many eyes on Netflix and that many brands working with Netflix, sponsorship deals are bound to come, right? When we talk about sponsorship deals, brand collaborations, all of these mean money. And at the end of the day, WWE is a business. They want to make as much money as they possibly can. and whoever that works for the company wins, right? So cash flow has been way larger than ever before, I believe. I'm gonna say I haven't done my research on that. I'm sure there's a portfolio somewhere where we could see how much money they bring in, but I'm very sure that by working with Netflix, they are bringing in much more money in terms of brand sponsorships and whatnot. Because you think about it, right, WWE, ever since they got into Netflix, you realize there's an insane influx of brands. If we talk about Slim Jims on the table, the ugly ass logo on the table, the Fireball ladder, I'm not sure if anyone remembers that, Prime. The wrestling mat, which used to be a sacred thing for Vince McMahon, right? He never slept on any brands on the mat ever. Now it's full of it. So you can see the direction they have taken. Brands do have to pay money to get showcased on this kind of platforms. Oh, excuse me, gassy drinks make me buff. You can see where all this cash flow is coming in from, and obviously, right, this helps to being on Netflix brings more awareness to wrestling. So on a local level, we talk about slightly micro here. Because it is on Netflix, you get people who have either never seen wrestling before, or maybe they used to watch wrestling. They can come back very easily because they don't have to spend the extra like $15 watching on Peacock or the WWE Network in the past, right? They can just use whatever existing subscriptions they have on Netflix. They can just tune in and they go, oh yeah, I used to watch wrestling. Oh, I've never watched wrestling before. Now I know. And all these documentaries they're pumping out, Unreal, the one that's highly talked about. That's also a good way to bring in people because it breaks the fourth wall. People get interested. The older generation, some of them who know that wrestling is fake, but some of them might want to find out more. That's how they fall in love with wrestling and whatnot. Wrestling is not fake; it is coordinated. And Chris Jericho is gonna murder me for saying that it's fake. It's not. It's coordinated, right? But anyways, that's the kind of funnels that they can bring in many people. So yeah, generally it's good, but this would mean that it becomes more stakeholder focused. Those people who pay WWE money do have a say when it comes to certain things, depending on how much money you're paying. Like TKO, right? TKO is a massive stakeholder. They're not exactly a brand; they're an organization that merged together with WWE. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Working closely together, my terms are not that great. But because of that, right, their programming becomes very money-centric. Whatever that brings them the most money. It can also be a shit storyline. It could also be a terrible decision and whatnot. But so long as it makes them money, it can not sit well with the fans and they still get away with it every now and then, right? That's one of the problems, one of the risks that we can see. Then because of that, it becomes less about the fans. So from our perspective, we're going to watch programming that is going to be decided by the stakeholders, not by WWE. I'm sure that WWE still has a say, but it's not 100% wrestling centric anymore. So there are external influences that will affect your creatives. So it could be good, it could not be good, right? It really depends on who you're asking. But yeah, I would still say generally it's good because you're pumping in more money into the industry. There's more awareness going around, and little industries or little indie scenes like us. More people watch wrestling, more people look up for the local stuff, more people come and watch our shows. It's a very simple formula. So yeah, generally good. Right. I'm going to move on to the next question, but before that, because I keep talking, I'm going to have another sip. Anyway, side point, as I've been rapid firing all these questions, like I've been looking for a drink stand for quite some time. And I haven't been able to find a good one that extends from my table all the way up. Maybe I should just raise my table. I didn't think about that. Yeah, again, I hope I'm doing good for first ever Q&A. I know I didn't sell it just now, but this is really a big deal because I have never done a solo podcast before. Hope I'm still doing well and haven't lost a whole lot of you yet. But yeah, let's move on to the next question. This one's a little bit spicy. And I am going to say this is in my opinion. Alright, guys? Whether or not, it's all about the creatives written about the people who are working. It's the creatives they are given to the wrestlers and whatnot. Alright? Again, in my own opinion, let me know if you do have your own in the comments. You know the usual stuff. Okay, let's talk about the spicy question. Which wrestler in WWE now do you feel is the most underrated, and conversely, the most overrated, and why? I think this is the kind of question that everybody, has an answer to. Like there's a group of people who will say like, oh, it's wrestler A or wrestler B, So yeah, to each his own. So I had 2 picks for each of the categories, and I have 1 male and 1 female wrestler for each of the categories, underrated and overrated. We'll start with the underrated ones first. Underrated for the ladies, for me, Chelsea Green. I have a soft spot for workhorses like Chelsea Green. She wrestles well. Right? If you've seen her time in Lucha Underground when she was still Reclusla, I knew more about her from her time there. She wrestled Penta. That was an amazing match. That was a good match. Even in WWE, she does wrestle well with what little is given to her. And if you've been watching the programming for the past 6 months, I don't think it does Chelsea Green enough justice. She's got a great character as well. She's so funny. Like, her Karen character is so natural. I really love it when she's like she scoffs at people. It's so funny. It's so natural. Whenever she calls Nick out, it's Nicholas. It always gets me. Yeah, for me, Chelsea Green, like I said, she's that type of wrestler, the type of heel that helps to elevate other people. Sometimes, it doesn't do her favors because, she's always the stepping stone, which is quite unfortunate. But again, it's creative, right? It really depends on how you book the person. She doesn't have to be a stepping stone forever, right? Daniel Bryan was one of those stepping stones. He's always constantly elevating people to the point that the fans got so angry and they wanted Daniel Bryan to win, right? And I'm not saying that they're exactly the same character, but I think the profile fits, right? Chelsea Green, 100% underrated. Her work rate is amazing. If you watched Unreal, there's I can't remember which episode was it, but there was a feature of Chelsea Green, and watching it makes you fall in love with her character a lot more. Her real life character, I mean. Such a lovely lady. So yeah, 100% underrated. I hope to see her become a main champion one day. Okay, let's talk about the male category. So, underrated male wrestler. I think you heard about me talking about Chelsea Green. The Miz. Dude, guys, The Miz, right? I think for a very long time he hasn't been given his flowers. It's only until of recent, maybe year or two, maybe a little bit before that, where he's finally given his flowers. The Miz is such an amazing talent, right? You can give him a rock and he can make like diamonds out of it. He's got great promo skills. His wrestling, I'm not sure if you guys seen him wrestle certain people, but maybe in the past 2 years he started to bring out more crazy things like springboard crossbody, backstabbers, tilt-a-whirl stuffs. He can do all of these things, but he doesn't do that all the time, right? His wrestling is quite decent. His psychology is good. So what I'm trying to say is, right, whatever The Miz does, be it a promo, be it in a match, even though you know that he doesn't have a great win-loss record, he's still able to make you believe, right? Through his words, through his in-ring work, the way he wrestles, the way the match is set up, you could still feel that there's a chance for The Miz. And that's not something that a lot of wrestlers can do. That's not something that a lot of people of his position can do, right? We talk about Chelsea Green being a stepping stone. The Miz is a stepping boulder at this point. He has put over so many talents over the years, but he still remains, relevant. He still remains at the top of his game. Even now, he's still putting over guys like Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, right? And he's still putting up banger matches with them. He wrestled Ilya Dragunov quite a couple of weeks back, and it was a great match. I thought it was good. It was decent, right? I think The Miz is very, very underrated. I'm so happy that, right now he's finally getting his flowers. He's a bit, maybe 5 to 10 years too late, guys. But yeah, happy to see him get his flowers and all. I got a hidden mention written down. I don't know what I was thinking. I said Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is underrated. I don't know about you guys. I think Solo Sikoa, right? He has everything it takes to be a monster heel. I think he has everything it takes to be a very believable wrestler, but for some reason the creatives have booked him to oblivion. He's a joke right now. It's a roller coaster ride with Solo Sikoa. For a little while he's a little bit serious. For a little while he becomes a joke. Almost spilled my drink there. And then for a little while, he gets serious again. So I don't know what's going on with Solo Sikoa. So I think maybe that's why I put it as an honorable mention. It's just slightly underrated. He has proven that he can do good matches. The match he had with Gunther in the Cena tournament, that was a great match. I like that. Hidden mention, honorable mention. Okay, let's talk about overrated people. Okay, we start with the ladies first. For me, the current overrated wrestler, in my opinion, is Stephanie Verker. Look, for those of you listening who has been listening to the podcast, you guys know that I always, complain about Jade Cargill. But if you think about it, Jade Cargill was never ready to begin with. She was still green on the mic. She's still a little bit green in the ring. And WWE strapped a rocket to her and were hoping to the stars that she could carry the title. So it's not really her fault. I would say Stephanie Verker, on the other hand, again, it's also creative, right? But we look at her now. She's also a champion, but no matter how much I watch her, I just cannot seem to connect with her. She's a great wrestler, don't get me wrong. She does a lot of amazing things. Her finisher, the corkscrew moonsault, I think. I don't know what the actual name is called, but it's still an amazing move. She wrestles well, but I don't think it's healthy for people to remember her as the chick that does that devil's kiss. If you are being remembered for a move and nothing else, I think that's a big problem because that's not substance. That is just materialistic. And what if you suddenly cannot do the devil's kiss anymore? Oh no, you're nothing, right? Again, Stephanie Verker, maybe it could be the language barrier, whichever it is. I don't want to be, I don't want to point fingers around that. But it has been hard for her to connect with the audience. It's not helped by the fact that she has very limited facial expressions. In a wrestling match, her face doesn't change a lot. Maybe I don't know this, but if you look at every other female wrestler around her, like Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, even Io, right? Io, she doesn't even speak English also, but her facial expressions are all over the place. You can relate to her just by looking at her face. Stephanie Verker, she's more or less 2 to 3 emotes. I think the developers forget to add more emotions into her system. But yeah, I can't connect with her. Her character is quite unclear, apart from the fact that she's that chick that does the devil's kiss. So I'm sorry, Stephanie Verker, you are in the overrated section for me. We talk about the guys now. we've got a community member who loves Damian Priest. Yeah, so my pick for overrated male wrestler is Damian Priest. I don't know what's so good about him. I felt that, watching him. Let's talk about his promos first. When I watch his promos, I think that it's very, very draggy and almost monotonous. Like, it's always one tone that he's speaking. Like, there's no up and down in his rhythm. It's either flat angry, flat happy, that kind of stuff. When he cuts a promo, I don't really buy him I don't buy what he's saying. So I think that's challenging for me. And Damian, his wrestling, I wouldn't say is that amazing as well, because he's a big dude trying to do fancy strikes. Right? Trick Williams, he does fancy strikes, but he does it well, and he's kind of big. He's not that small. He's kind of big, not as big as Damian. Damian is trying to do fancy strikes. I don't think it suits him now. In the past, he could have done it, and I watched him in the past before. I thought it was great, but now I think he's slowed down a lot more, and it doesn't look too great anymore. So there's a disconnect between his moveset and his size. There's also a disconnect between his demeanor and the way he cuts his promos. When I look at him, I don't know if he is a goth character or is he a dude from the streets, because there was quite a period of time where he was sold as the guy who grew up on the streets of New York, right? He grew up in bad conditions, toughening up. I thought that was a good narrative going in. I thought that was a good story, but it never really worked on that anymore, and he still is goth. So, you see, again, a goth character is not something I would envision coming out of the streets. So for me personally, I think there's a disconnect there. So I feel like right now he's overrated. Why? Because he's this guy that's being put into the title scene, number one contendership and whatnot, when it could be someone else, I feel. So that's my take on overrated male wrestler Damian Priest. Right, so these are my picks. Please don't dox me. If you do have some guys or gals that y'all feel that a little bit underrated or overrated, vice versa, just let us know. We'll find another Q&A, then maybe we can discuss more about them if you're enjoying what you're listening to or watching so far. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Let me have another drink first. Alright, so this one's a little bit fan-ish, a little bit of a fan question. Which WWE superstar has the best finisher? Okay, so for me, I split it up to two categories here. Visual impressiveness and of course the impact, how brutal the finisher looks. For me, I'm more of a fan of the impact realism rather than a visual realism. But to each his own. When we talk about visual, what is a great visual finisher? I'm going to give you one right off the bat. Javon Evans, the OG cutter. God damn. Oh my God. You see that how high the fella goes? Sol Ruka does a fancy cutter as well. So that kind of visual, right? So I picked three. For me, it's Javon Evans, OG cutter. Bouncy boy, really, really bouncy. But as a wrestler myself, I gotta ask, like, how viable or rather how sustainable it is to do this kind of finisher for the long term. Because the guy has to go up all the way to the top rope, and he doesn't go straight down. He jumps up again, so he's falling with extra height on that cutter. We look at Randy Orton, who has been doing the RKO for many, many years, and what that has done to his back. And Javon Evans, I know he's 22 or 21. He's a very young kid. He's doing a move with that kind of height. Yes, it's very impressive. Sustainable? Only time will tell, because landing on your back like that from that height, I think even you guys can tell that that's not going to be pleasant after 20 years. So, I'm not sure how long it's going to go with that. A little bit of a surprising one for me. I quite like Logan Paul's pulverizer. It's quite an intricate move. You can see it's a lot of moving parts, but it's it generally looks safe. Basically, it's a back suplex. The guy kind of like flips around. He grabs in a DDT and plants him body down, not head down. Yeah, I think it's simply because of how you have to, put your timing in, get your timing right. I think the pulverizer is quite a good move to look at. I just, satisfying might be the word to use. It's quite nice. Yeah, so for me, it's, again, whether or not it makes sense, because you do have to back suplex the guy. Logan Paul is not the biggest dude in WWE, so what makes a good finisher is whether or not you can do it on anyone and everyone without killing yourself, of course, and the other guy, needless to say. So will Logan Paul be able to ever do a pulverizer on, say, a dude like Bronson Reed, Randy Orton, Roman, all these guys, they are way bigger than he is? I think it's going to struggle just a little bit. So yeah, that's why I just, visually it looks nice. Whether or not it can run well, whether or not it's, what's that term? Whether or not it's logical. Okay, my English is starting to fail a little bit, but you can't do it to everyone's what I'm saying. All right, got another one, the third one. So I love the moonsault done by Io Sky. It's just a moonsault, right, guys? But I don't know what about that moonsault is so amazing. I would say it's a moonsault that's very reminiscent of the Great Muta. It's called a moonsault press. So I don't know if there's a great difference between a regular moonsault and a moonsault press, but what I can say is that it does look different. For the moonsault press, the one that she does, she kind of like falls back rather than goes up and down. It's more of a back as opposed to a curve and down. So it does look impactful, and every time she lands it right, she'll flare in the air. Every time she gets it, I just think that it's a great move. I mean, an honorable mention for me would be Tiffany Stratton's PME, prettiest moonsault ever. Yeah, big shout out to Christopher Daniels as well. I always love that move. Yeah, so for me, visually, these three are the moves: OG Cutter, Pulverizer, and the moonsault down by Io Sky. So let's talk about the impact one. So these are my favorites. We got the Tsunami by Bronson Reed. By the way, the Vision guys, they have very, very sick finishes. Tsunami done by Bronson Reed. Dude, the Tsunami is insane. Like, I'm sure he does it very safely, but every time he lands that shit, I always feel like the guy below gets no more already. just no more already. I think it's just the way Bronson Reed does it. His body language, and again, a big part of wrestling comes from body language. Right? Bronson, he doesn't really climb all the way to the top rope and perch up there, which would look a little bit awkward because he's kind of a big chunky boy. He did mention that he purposely jumps off before he gets the entire perch. So this little jump and this little T-Rex arms waving thing that he does all the time, for some reason, is just visually pleasant to me. And of course, I did say he's a big chunky boy. Boom! The bump is always so loud, so impactful. Tsunami is really, really one of the best moves I feel WWE has now. And with good reason, right? They have been using the Tsunami to put out like many people over the years. There's a couple of people who got Tsunami and never came back to WWE. LA Knight did. Ricochet, Braun Strowman. I think that might be another guy who got Tsunami to oblivion and ended up in AEW. Yeah. Speaking of AEW, the question did ask which WWE superstar, but I just want to go out my way and give, I have to acknowledge what is nice. So for me, a move done by a wrestler that's outside WWE and it's amazing, I feel, is the Hidden Blade by Will Ospreay. It's a very simple contact move. For those of you who know wrestling, who really know wrestling, obviously for us wrestlers, we all know that it's a very simple contact move. But because of its simplicity, people are able to sell it really, really well because it's just a boom, and how you sell, is really up to you. You are not really controlled by the other guy. You just have to take a contact and go down. And of course, you have to give credit to Will Ospreay as well. The way he does it, the way he snaps past the guy, the way he sets up some of his hidden blades where he catches the guy out of nowhere in the back of the head and everything. It just combination of that, it just looks so brutal. It looks like Will is really beheading the fella. So I'm a huge fan of realism, and like from a wrestling standpoint, from a wrestler standpoint, I know that it's 100% safe move because which part of the body he's using. So it's a huge plus for me. So I would say the Hidden Blade by Will Ospreay is one of the best moves that I've seen ever. Okay, that the biggest one for me is actually, again, it's another simple move. Maybe not simple. I don't know how to describe this. Okay, let's talk about it. Braun Breaker. Jesus, dude, when Braun charges up and he starts running at the person, his spear scares the GBs out of me, man. Like, I'm not sure if you guys remember the one that he gave to Speed last year. I think it was last year. He ran over Speed. He didn't contact Speed. He ran him over. Dude was in the middle of the ring and he got taken off and almost hit the ropes. That's insane. That's how fast Braun was. I mean, historically speaking, right, when we look at Spears is always a contact and a flat bump. Most of the time, the wrestlers don't get picked off their feet and get sent all the way back, right? Guys like Edge, it was a running hug, some people say. Batista, for a big dude, it's always a running poink. So you think that Batista, being a big dude, would be able to, hit a strong spear. But no, he's always very gentle with the spear. Even Roman, right? Roman, I would say he is one of the better spears out there. But his is also a clean contact and a flat bump on the spot. Braun doesn't give a shit. He runs through you. That's... Yeah, so like I said, his spear really, really scares the GBs out of me. Every time I see someone take it, like, I legit think that the guy got split in half. I don't even think Goldberg's spear was that great as compared to Braun's. I think both have footballing backgrounds, right? So, yeah, Braun Breaker for me, his spear is yeah, it makes me believe. All right, we're down to our final question here. Actually, we're doing good time anyways. So I'm just gonna have a quick drink and then we can talk about this. This is less of it's WWE related, but it's less of it. All right, last question. What lessons can the local / regional scene learn from WWE? Again, it's a little bit vague when you say scene, so I'm just gonna assume that you mean what we can learn from the wrestlers, us as individual performers, what we can learn from wrestlers. A lot. I mean, for good reason, right? WWE has been around for decades. They are masters at what they do when it comes to, of course, wrestling, because that's what they are known for, right? No shit, Sherlock. But a lot of WWE stuff don't just come from the wrestlers. We can also think about how well they produce their shows, right? The camera magic, as one would say. I would say half of the battle is won if you have great production. And it doesn't matter how... I mean, it does show after a while. But their production is so good to the point that they can help mask inexperienced wrestlers who can't cut promos, wrestlers who can't wrestle well. Right? Anyway, if you watch Stephanie Verker's vignettes, it's always that one sentence that she says and then boom, 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 wrestling. Alright? So they're really good at what they do. Let's talk about what other things we can learn. We can start off with presentation. If you look at a WWE superstar, right, you immediately know that they're superstars. Why is it that way? Right? Why don't they look like regular people on the street? Trust me, if they do dress like that, you won't notice. But it's the kind of things that they do, their body language, the kind of costumes that they wear. They really bring out the larger than life energy, in the characters. So when they make their entrances, that's where the first impressions are made, or maybe like a backstage promo, whichever the case is. But for most wrestlers, it's that entrance down that ramp, right? The first impression is very important. Things like whether or not the music suits the character that you're playing. If, for example, if Undertaker, right, if he came out to Powerpuff Girls music, if that makes sense, if he came out to something like that, you're never gonna buy the Undertaker as a character, right? So the music is really, really important. We talked about costume again. We go back to the Undertaker. Undertaker is a dead man character. If he wears like fluffy cotton candy kind of costume, that's not gonna fly, right? It doesn't suit his character. And obviously, lastly, what is your character, right? Undertaker was obviously a dead man. So what is your character? Now, in modern wrestling, that's a very tricky question to ask, because all these jarring, funky characters don't exist anymore, right? The Undertakers, the Kanes, what's the Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, all these funky characters, all these wacky characters don't exist anymore. Right now is modern day wrestling. The wrestlers are just mostly being themselves with a lot of juice spiked in, right? It's a lot of their own creative stuff. So if you don't understand your character, that you cannot figure out what you need to wear, you cannot figure out what music you need to play. We'll talk about the way the promos and the technical stuff really soon. But yeah, before any of these people, look at your entrance first, and that's where you make the most important impression. So I think presentation is something that a lot of wrestlers around the world can learn. Let me talk about. I couldn't find a word for this, so I wrote down believableness. I still cannot find a good word for it. Whether or not people will buy into you. Believableness. Someone help me out here. All right. So again, you walk down that ramp, people look at you, the way you present yourself, that first impression. Oh, I think that guy is a psychopath, or I think that guy is a happy-go-lucky guy, right? Are you doing things that your character would or wouldn't? So if you start doing things that has a disconnect between you and your character, then again, people are gonna stop buying you. Because again, we bring it back to the Undertaker, right? The dead man gimmick is a very, very serious mystical gimmick. If he starts dancing in a tutu, he starts dressing out like a ballerina, no one's gonna buy it. So again, the awe is gone, right? Moves, another one, moveset. I think I'm gonna be frank, I am a little bit old school, where I believe that the bigger guys shouldn't be flipping all over the place. In fact, I feel like wrestling shouldn't be all about flips. To each his own. Some people appreciate the athletic stuff more. That's completely fine, because it's an art form. Just like how you like punk rock, or I like classical. Everyone has their own favorite flavors, and that's completely fine. So like for me, I'm a little bit more old school. I kind of like wrestling that makes sense. I kind of like wrestling styles that make me believe it's a fight, even though it's not. And that's where the magic happens, right? It's not. They're not trying to murder each other, but it's amazing how they tell their story, right? So, again, moves is a very touchy thing, because I'm gonna call out one wrestler in WWE right now, and that's Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee. When you look at Dragon Lee, you think lucha, fast, great strikes, but you don't really associate him with power moves. But the fella is trying to powerbomb guys from the War Raiders, guys that are twice his size. He's trying to powerbomb them, and that really makes you look a little bit dumb, right? So it's a huge disconnect right there. So if I'm watching for the first time, am I supposed to believe that is Dragon Lee a powerhouse superstar, or is he gonna be a lucha fast-paced superstar? If I see that powerbomb for the first time, I'm gonna get confused, right? So yeah, your moves do have to matter, but it's not easy, obviously, right? Some of us, we do it for like 20 odd years and we still don't figure it out. Yeah, when we talk about technical skills like cutting your promo, how good you are able to cut a promo in your character. You can still be you. You don't have to get into character, but when the cameras go on, when you have to cut a promo, are you believable? Do you want people to buy you? Right? Roman Reigns, when he was working with a character that he was not comfortable with, he flopped like a fish. He was so bad. You think back 2015, 2016, 2017, he was a bum on the mic. It was so bad and so painful watching Roman Reigns back then. But why is it so? Because Vince McMahon was trying to force a character onto Roman, to which he's not. But now Roman is given a free reign. Haha, pun intended. Roman is given a free reign now to say things that Roman would say, and it's so believable. Right? Obviously, he's got the acting from Hollywood and whatnot, but the way he channeled his hate and venom into CM Punk, for those of you who watched Raw, at this point, it would have been like a week ago, you could feel it just from words, right? I know it's a very chicken and egg thing, right? It's like, how does the guy, the guy is just talking, right? Sorry, not a chicken and egg thing, it's a no shit Sherlock thing. The guy is just talking. Obviously, you can tell, what he's trying to emote. No. It's a skill for people to say something and channel the right kind of emotion where it is widely interpreted as one emotion. It is very hard. So how good is your promo? That's one thing. And then the uniqueness. How do you stand out from all these wrestlers? When we look at WWE, you don't really see a lot of wrestlers that fit into each other's profile, right? At least for the main eventers, right? Because they are a lot of them, they are just being themselves at this point. You don't have two Seth Rollins, you don't have two LA Knights, you don't see another person acting like LA Knight. But LA Knight, one could argue that is a little bit of a Stone Cold Rock mash, but maybe that was a bad example. Like you don't see two Braun Breakers, you don't have two CM Punks. Right, so how well you stand out, it's very important. How you dress, how you move, how you talk, and that is where people can connect to you. So all of these things that we talked about presentation, believableness, technical skill, uniqueness. This is what sets you apart from all the other wrestlers in the locker room. Is it a bad thing? I don't think it is a bad thing, because what sets you out helps the audience remember you a little bit better, right? At the end of the day, do you want the audience to remember you as one of the guys who did like a frog splash out of the 10 guys that were on the card? Or do you want the crowd to remember you as the guy that came out and danced really well? Just saying, right? If every other person on the card is doing a frog splash and you're the one dude that didn't do it and you did something else, people will tend to remember. So how you set yourself apart, right? So yeah, sorry, that was my wrestling coach Dave talk. Anyways, it was entirely my opinion for this and of course every other question. If you do disagree or if you agree, feel free to let us know. It's always an open discussion. And of course, this episode, like I mentioned earlier, it's gonna be released on the 15th of February. So yeah, this about wraps up this special episode of today. Please let me know if you guys want to see another one. Hopefully I didn't whiff it this time, but yeah, it's getting late. I got a lot of videos to edit. And yeah, in Singapore next week is gonna be Chinese New Year, so I hope you guys are having a blast. Next week, maybe the week after, I can't remember, but Chinese New Year is right around the corner. So, have a happy New Year, everyone. We should get all the nice, juicy, fat ampaos. Alright, as always, guys, I'm gonna close off. Yeah, as always, please help to like, share, subscribe, all that kind of social media stuff. Do us a 10-second favor, do us a solid, because that will really help us go a long way. Alright, do all that good stuff for us. If you want to look for us, we are at ringsidebrewpod.sg on TikTok as well as Instagram. How are you going to join our Discord? Go to our Instagram bio. Discord link is right in the bio. Click on it, accept the invite, and you are in our community. We talk about wrestling every day. In fact, the questions I gathered today was all from the community. So yeah, I got quite a going on there. Yep, the alcohol is getting a little bit to me. Yeah, 3% only. Alright, yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna wish you all a happy Chinese New Year, and for those of you not celebrating it, have a good holiday, rest well, and I'll see you soon on the next episode. Bye.